In 2026, the scariest resource is leadership isn't capital, it's clarity. Teams are faster, more distributed, more pressured, and leaders are carrying invisible load. Decision fatigue, emotional drift, attention fatigue, and performance anxiety. When mental wellness is ignored, execution weakness, culture fractures, and growth becomes fragile. Mental wellness has moved from HR topic to a strategic lever. It has determined how leaders handle ambiguity and how teams observe change, how conflicts resolve, and how consistency organizations deliver. The best leaders don't manage tasks, they design human decision systems that stay resilient under pressure. Today, we are joined by Sathish Sampath, a human decision architect and a mental wellness ambassador who blends physiology, mindfulness, and leadership performance into practical framework leaders can apply immediately. Before we dive into the topic, let's have a small video about Power of Knowing forum. Let's welcome Satish and dive into the topic. Hi Satish, welcome to our podcast. Good evening.
Thank you. Thank you. Good evening. Good evening to all. Good morning. Good evening. Good night. Whoever from wherever you are seeing this.
Satish, a small intro about yourself and your journey so far, Satish.
Sure. I am an entrepreneur to start with, and then basically by qualification, licensing, and certification, I'm a psychologist, and I run companies. I have a portfolio of companies which are built based on human behavioral psychology. So wherever there is human behavioral psychology decision making intelligence comes, we build a portfolio based on that. Whether it is going to be digital marketing, whether it is going to be framework, whether it is R&D or our own agency systems. We also have our own AI company. And my journey so far is around 27 years going on, lots of ups and downs, but resilience is the word that you used. We are here and we will be here.
Great, Satish. Now, Satish, to start with, what's the most dangerous mental blind spot you see in high performance leaders today, and why does it quietly destroy growth?
To answer that question, let me give some a little um, introduction to that. Okay, why mental wellness and leadership? Okay, I think that you beautifully said it was a HR topic before. Generally we were thinking that team building activities, people jumping around, going around, having team lunch together was much to do with mental wellness. Okay, I would probably start this discussion with a very important example I give in every single stage is that whenever we think of a rainbow, all that we remember is one arc which has seven colors. Okay. But everybody should know, if they already do not know, rainbow is a circle. Okay. And why we see only a colorful arc is because the horizon actually, we can see only the top of the horizon. The other half is hidden inside the horizon. So that's exactly what mental wellness is all about, and that is exactly what leadership combining with mental wellness is all about. So I would try to talk. not about the visible side. Because I'm a psychologist, I'm a hypnotherapist by profession, and I'm also part of a lot of forums talking about mental wellness awareness all across the world. We will talk about things which others will not talk, which is the hidden side of the rainbow. And those are the things which are really, really important for a leader to understand. And I will set the context with this word called leader. Leader, immediately, if they should not be thinking that leader means CEO, CTO, no. Anybody who is having one or more people reporting or working along with them is a fractional leader by themselves, because their action, their emotion, it will impact other people. So let's take the subject from the ground up. And then now coming to your personal, question, why it is not a personal topic anymore. Okay. Uh, Earlier, the organizations were having a structured based system where you put an input and the output comes. Okay. And in what happened in the middle was there were a lot of disturbances to the system. And I will take the latest point, which is probably AI. Okay. AI being challenging whether a human is required or not. Okay. Similar type of interferences were there, right from the invention of calculators to computers to so what happens here is mental wellness is no longer an internal state. It is actually a operating variable. Every strategic decision, every team interaction, every execution cycle is filtered through that particular leader's cognitive and emotional clarity. So think if the leader's emotional clarity drops, what happens? The decision actually degrades. And then the comes the ripple effect, or the comes the effect where the minute the decision is degrading, there comes the problem of attrition. There comes the problem of wrong decisions. There comes the problem of inconsistency, and that's where we connect the last dot, which is the business growth. Wherever there is no consistency, the growth is always challenged, always challenged. It's almost like a stock market. Your audio. I am not able to hear you. Maybe you went on a mute. Then I'm not able to hear you. I can only see your mouth moving. Yeah,
Can you hear me?
yes,
Yeah.
yes, now I can.
I
Perfect.
was on mute. I was not on mute. So okay. That's right. So when is mental health or why is mental health now a leadership growth strategy? Right. So that's the point that I want to understand, Satish.
Yes, yes. Um, I will answer it based on the outcome. Okay.
Okay. Okay.
Uh, we if you're a leader, okay, what is that you would expect? One is you want to have the decision quality, which is something which you really need, because the clarity determines the accuracy and timing. Okay, not only with regards to whether it is a right decision or wrong decision, but at least it should be a timely decision. Okay, the other is to inspire people who is actually working for you. You can attach that with motivation, you can attach that with productivity, you can attach that with retention, attrition, like you can build that mind map. And possibly, like you can also think about how much are we able to deliver more things, okay, at finite number of resources, which is basically everybody's dream. Okay, being a leader. If I can have 10-member team and have 100 clients, then that's the kind of leadership that I would like to do. And now comes the factor of attaching mental wellness to it. Okay, is it right? Forget about stressing the employees. Is it first of all? Is it the way that I want to build a company? Okay, and that comes as the emotional clarity. It's not the rational one. It comes the emotional clarity. Will I be able to give the same kind of services that I'm giving client number one to client number 100? Okay,
Okay.
so that maybe a times frame, what happens is people may say, oh, maybe they may not know it or they may not see it. Okay. Whenever we are talking about mental wellness, the self comes first. Okay. It means that you know it. Okay. So every time you are putting 10 different tasks to a customer and then asking them about the same thing in an agile stand up, okay, you know that if you are that staff, you will not even do that. Okay. So it goes back to the wellness side of leadership is basically put you in that shoe number first, not in the retrospective way, but in the proactive way.
Got it. So you are taking it as a proactive step. So that's the first point that you should look at, right?
Will I be probably happy if I work for a leader like this?
Okay. So what you are saying in other words is the leadership style that matters when you see a leader talking, and you want to grow into that stage. Is that what we can say?
You can say yes.
Yeah.
Should we be a role model for somebody? Is
Yeah.
secondary
Role model.
question. It's a secondary question. First thing is, are you doing the right thing first?
Okay. Now, looking at that, when you are a leader, what are the three business outcomes most directly impact by mental wellness? Decision quality, retention, innovation, speed, or trust. So, what could be the three biggest outcomes that directly impact mental health?
Happy you actually pulled that up. I think we already spoke about decision quality. We spoke about speed.
Yeah.
We actually spoke about the retention also. So I think I'll stick on to that itself because everything else actually links back to these things. Everything
Mhm.
comes back to these things, whether it is going to be the resource perspective or the client perspective or the delivery perspective.
Okay. Okay. So, now when we looked at these three pointers, decision quality, one was speed and trust, right? Now, we always also get some kind of warnings, remember? So when we talk to leaders, right? So what warning signals tells your team is producing but mentally declining? So is there something that you can take pointers there, Satish?
I can easily say this because I'm running a portfolio company. The easiest way is that, you will not have a delivery problem. Delivery will be smoothly, it will happen. But if you put yourself as a third person, you will start seeing that more or less all our delivery will look similar. Okay.
Okay. Okay.
I will probably use a word called creativity. So if people are going to come and say that I'm into coding, so I don't have much of a creativity as a concept, I'll say. You can
Okay.
apply creativity in the basis of interest. You can apply the creativity basis of additional roles and responsibility, creativity based on additional research. But not, if somebody is saying that, okay, I will take the same cake, put A, give it to you, put B, give it to you. And that's the biggest warning that people are internally, the dehydration is starting. That's the first level. And if you actually go to a psychologist talking about, how your day is going, the first thing they will actually start asking you was, what did you do today? Okay. The second time when you go, they will ask the same question, what did you do today? Okay. This is exactly even the signs they will look for. Okay.
Okay.
The first stigmatic stress response is that you will try to get away from something which is not usual. So you will stick on to the usual. I think that would be one side. The second sign is if you look at it from the project perspective, okay, you will probably see that there'll be lot of reworks or the misalignment in that case. If we have to probably put it in agile terms, lot of velocity will be there. Okay, so that is uh, either that is a understanding issue or that is a resistance. That is actually a resistance. So a smart leader will catch that as a resistance and then they will call up and have an open talk. Okay. Possibly many a times if you look at it very closely, you will exactly know that these particular staff probably will leave my company anytime. If you look at the velocity chart and their creativity decline, you will be able to see that they may get out anytime. And I use that. I do that. Okay. And possibly the third thing which I can say, because you asked for three, mm, they will do a lot of work. Okay. They will do a lot of work, but they will not participate in the group meeting. They will their work will not be affected, but their voice will come down. They will not
Okay.
participate. I will probably put it like they will have a silent disengagement. Okay, even though their activity is visible. I think if you can quote that, then you can directly link that to the hidden rainbow.
But Satish, I think what I've seen in my career is, if you stop somebody talking for 2 3 times, then they will not start talking in any of the meetings. They go silent because they are not heard. That's the first sign, I think, is what is happening in meetings, because teams will perform but they don't have their own voice, which does not come in, is what I see. What we are saying is, frame wellness as a performance infrastructure, keep it as outcome led. Clarity, resilience, execution consistency, and talent stability is what it. Growth breaks first in the mind, long before it breaks in the numbers. That's the point that I would like to say. And coming to
Perfect.
the next point that I want to say, you've been saying that you are called as the human decision architect, right? What is this human decision architect, and why do leaders need it now?
Whatever we are right now is based on the decisions that we took somewhere with some constant and variable combined. Okay.
Hmm.
The reason why I spent almost literally whole of my career inside this particular gray area is basically how decisions are formed. Okay, being a psychologist, my area of research is there is a stimulus and there is a response. Okay, and there is a gray area intermediary to that. Okay, which is where the decisions are formed. If I'm asking you a question, your answer can be yes, no, maybe, or a number of options. But there is a formation area which is there. And my entire research, entire organization builds up on what is happening inside this. We call it as shunya or we call it as a 0 point. Okay. And your question saying that, why human decision architecture and why do leaders? See, this is a very important question, Prem, because this is where Prem will remain a Prem. Okay. Even after doing 20 years of your career, 30 years of your career, you actually, from a ground level, you have rised up to a CXO right now. Okay. During a lot of times, what happens is that many a times people influence you. I use this example. Many a times we go for training. They will actually try to fit a square inside a circle.
Hmm.
Okay. They will say, this is the training mechanism. This is my point number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So first time you try to fit it, not possible. Second time try to fit it, not possible. What happens during that period of time? Either you give up, okay, or what happens is if the organization is if the leader, let's say that there's a middle management leader, okay, he will not perform well if it is a circle going inside square. Okay, or square going inside circle. So either if the management feels that this guy is very important, okay, so they will increase the circle so that it goes inside. Okay.
Okay.
Or or if the if you get so much of options outside, you will say that no, square will not go inside and square will probably go to us another place. So look at the nuances of what is being taught to you. Okay. So in this process, a real brain is lost somewhere.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So why it is important for a leader, human decision architect? Because the architecture of decision making for brain will be completely different from Satish. Okay. And whatever decision that you have taken, irrespective of outcome, if you remain as brain, your growth prospect will multiply because you don't have to wear multiple masks. Okay. This is where we come in. Okay. A person who is actually starting, let's say, a software company, okay, can immediately get inspired by, let's say, Elon Musk, and they want to jump into a SpaceX.
Hmm. Okay.
Okay. I am not saying it is not possible. I am saying this is the same square and circle and squares structure. Yeah. You need to understand what is your own personal decision architecture. Okay. That way, even if you want to create SpaceX, you have to go the Prem Kumar way, not the Elon Musk. Okay. So
Got it.
that is the human architecture is deliberate design on decision which is done under normal circumstances, pressured circumstances, as you yourself. If I knock off the pressure, also the architecture should remain the same. If I apply the pressure, also the architecture should remain the same. That's when the decision becomes yours. That's where most of the times, you should not get feedback from others.
Now I get get your point where, see, I think what you are as a person should be the same when you are having a crisis, irrespective you are having a crisis or not. So that's the point that I think you are trying to drive. Now, how do you define decision architecture in simple leaders can apply in the boardroom? Because leadership always has to look at one level down and the board level, right? So how do you look at those, Satish?
It is actually very simple. We psychologists we try to put a framework to it, etc., etc. A lot of if you go back to our own simple days, okay, our own simple days, the success ratio of our decision making is higher than the current day. Okay, the
Okay.
reason being, you actually took decisions at a level of, again, I go back to Shunya, which is basically a normal zero point 0.0 effect, which means that you are not inclined this way or you are not inclined that way. If you are going to ask me like a simple model, I can give you this way. Okay. Wherever there is a stimulus which is coming inside, okay, you keep few parameters which are there. It is almost like a water dripping into a filter system and then coming out as your own pure water. Okay, what is the filtering level that you want? You can actually put it. That is where, let's say, in that case, I would use my own example. I will probably say that is it something to do with my own expertise? Number one, because I have a habit of not stepping out of what I cannot do. Even if I'm going to invest in a company, I will invest in a company only if the answer says, even if the current management fails miserably, I can step inside and get the company out. Okay. So, so now comes the filter level number one. Number two, your traits. Okay. First, what I'm talking about is your personality. The next is your trait. Trait is basically what are all the things that combine to become your personality. Okay. Is your decision filtering out through that nozzle also? And the last thing is your actions, reactions, attributions, and current acquaintance. Action, reaction, attribution, acquaintance, which is basically if I am doing a decision right, example, if I am going to say yes right now, will it possibly be right for me at this point in time? Will it possibly be, will it have a devastating effect? Will I be knocking off a lot of things? Or will it be a supplementary activity? My intention should be not to break the previous two blocks down. which is my personality and my tribe. This is a very simple framework, and we have actually built a comprehensive framework based on this, which is a neurovisceral model for dynamic decision readiness. It's a patent pending activity. This is exactly how our brain also works.
Hmm.
Okay. And the only difference between brain and what I'm doing right now is brain uses what is called as cognitive Miser effect. I'm using a technical word because people should know. Cognitive Miser effect is basically means if you let's say that do you want a cup of coffee? Okay. Immediately your brain will go to the shelf. If brain is offering coffee, should I take it or not? And it actually serves a decision. Okay. Brain will not go into A to Z of analysis. That's called as cognitive Miser effect. Okay. In the model which we created the same shelf artificially, okay, so that your personality, traits, and your attributes are not missing. So the leader can create their own, filter system very easily. Okay, it takes hardly 1 or 2 days. They can do it, and then comes the practice, which means the decisions will come, but you will not lose yourself.
Got it, Satish. Now, now most of the people start looking at these pointers and get into a trap, right? So how do we look at, right? So what are the biggest decision traps which happen here? Is it fatigue, ego, fear,
Ego,
urgency,
ego,
addiction, or overthinking? So
ego.
ego.
I rest my case. I rest my case because we are our own first enemy, our own ego. Because wherever we are right now, we are the perfect people who will say that I came here because of you. Okay.
Hmm.
And if something bad happens, our default will be if this guy did not do that, I will not be here. Okay.
Okay.
So it is all and it is not aberrant. It is not a phobia. Okay. It is normal. Humans are built like this. Our mind is always in a survival mode. We are built like this, which means that all goodness is mine, all bad is others. Okay. So if it is not something with if I have to act it in a different way, that's when I have to start unlearning. That's where we start seeing that, like understand your inner being, try to be great, gratitude, thanks, thankfulness, mindfulness. This is where you accept all the outcomes at the same level. Okay. But if you are going to make me name some other thing, then I would probably say that fear plus overthinking in the same aspect. Okay, because fear and overthinking almost comes the same. The first thing is, I instead of using a word called fear, I will say that resistance to change and overthinking.
Okay. Got it. Satish, I think what you are clearly saying is leadership. It is making more decisions. It's making the clear ones, right? So that's the point that you want to say, and giving a simple model input that you are saying: filters, choices, consequences. Make it repeatable. I think the whole structure falls into picture, and you get all the pointers that you make it as an habit, because once the filter is done, then you have a choice, then you have a consequence, and you make that repeatable. It becomes a habit, and the habits build your second level of thought, and you go default by doing it, right? So that's the point that you are trying to. How does it show up in CXOs and founders? What does it cost when it says, you say, decision fatigue?
What is their cost and how does it show? Okay.
Yeah.
It is not going to come and say that, hey, I'm here. Okay. And that is the biggest problem. Why
Yeah.
this topic is really important is because mental well-being, the opposite of that, okay, is not going to show up on day one. Okay, it's going to come. If you are going to realize the opposite, it means that you have already crossed a lot of space.
Hmm.
Okay,
Hmm.
so
Hmm.
specifically, if you are taking um, decision fatigue is basically procrastination is the immediate thing which actually comes. But I will put my foot down and think on a little different way. If the decision fatigue people will actually go and do a micromanagement,
Hmm.
I will tell you why. Okay, the reason is because they want to actually keep the project status at that level itself so that it doesn't actually come to the level of decision making. Okay, we call it as a cognitive distress, internal cognitive distress. Okay. It is not only with regards to project, it is actually on the leadership front also. If you probably have met a lot of vice presidents that level who are for years together they want to start their own company. Okay. You go ask them today, they will say the same answer. I'm working on some nitty-gritties. Okay. That's a beautiful word that we use. Okay. I'm just connecting the dots. Okay.
Okay.
Uh, Next year goes same thing. They will say that, everything is done. I'm just working on the last mile. Okay. So the jargons will change, but the state will remain the same. So I think these things can be related to visible signs. Visible signs. Like if you the, the biggest thing is if you can probably have a coach with you. Okay, that makes a lot of difference because you need to have a coach who will look at you from a third person point of view and catch it as early as possible.
You said micromanagement is one behavioral pointer, right? Where the fatigue will show up, right? One point. Now, what behaviors reveal decision fatigue? Reactive approvals, avoidance. You already said micro control. That is what slow choices.
I think I will go with slow choices because that's the human nature where you will actually protect your interest also. You will show as
Hmm.
if you are interested, okay, but you will actually list a lot of reasons saying that the choice is yet to come. Uh,
Okay.
because we have a that's our psychologically that's how we are built.
Uh, if I have to reset, what is the 24-hour reset protocol a leader can use immediately?
Reset what? Decision fatigue.
Decision fatigue.
Okay, I can probably put myself as a test subject here. Okay, um, because one good thing that a leader should do is sleep discipline. Okay, and I'm extremely bad in that. Okay, does it have an impact? Yes, it has an impact. Because being a behavioral psychology researchers, have we measured it? Yes, I have put myself as a subject, and we have taken the parameters of decisions, delays, etc., and my own productivity, and we have come up with some pointers. Sleep discipline is something which I will put it as number one. The second thing is I find it very unique, but it is very effective for me. If you want to take a decision, try to we call it a theta meditation technique, but to general audience, try to put yourself as a completely unrelated person. Okay, and that is something which will actually give you an immediate reset. Okay. If you want from a mindfulness perspective, okay, there is something called as a vortex, breathing. Vortex breathing is basically how you invert your Fibonacci series and do the breathing. Okay. It will come around 1 minute and 52 seconds or something like that. But that actually gives you an immediate reset. Immediate reset.
Now, what you are saying is put sleep as the primary thing and start doing practical steps. What is that you have to prioritize? Now, sleep could be one of the priority, right? So that changes the decision fatigue stuff where you take better blocking of time. What you said, right? Again, when you have to say, if I have to sleep at 9 o'clock, I have to schedule everything before 9 o'clock and close it before 9 o'clock, right? So that
Yeah.
is time blocking, and that boundary of sleeping is say 9:30. I go to bed. I am detoxed for half an hour. between 9 to 9:30. I am not on phone or on TV or somewhere. So I get that 9:30 I go to bed, right? So sleep boundary is being fixed, right? Delegation rules, that is one where we should look at is, most of the time people always take everything on themselves and they do lot of
Absolutely.
work. And that delegation, if you can delegate half of your work at least, you'll get more time to do the work that is required. And
Well
digital
said. Yes.
hygiene is one point that I want to add here, is because current generation is always on mobile, and we see screens more than the books that we read. So today generation is more of, so detox of the digital environment is very much required, is what you are saying. When leaders are tired, organization pay the interest on bad decisions, right? So that's the point that I would like to say. How do you separate, how do leaders separate stress uh, from burnout?
Actually, burnout is the top.
Okay.
Okay. Burnout is stress is part of a burnout. Okay. Stress,
Mhm.
anxiety, bereavement, everything is part of a burnout. So burnout, I would probably put it like it's like this. Psychology. Inside that you have hypnotherapy, you have a lot of other things. So
Okay.
there is a burnout, and inside that, like you can put stress as one of the things.
Mm,
So
mm,
I would probably say how to separate it. Mm, You can actually make this as a see, stress is basically related to the transactional activity. Okay,
mm,
transactional activity, comparing this with a burnout is not a correct comparison, because burnout is almost like a subject name, and this is a chapter name. Okay,
okay.
so
Okay.
everything adds to burnout. Everything adds to burnout. Okay, so I would probably say burnout is a systemic thing, and stress is one of the parameters in that.
Mm,
Okay,
mm,
so if you are going to ask me how to separate that, see, you cannot separate stress. Okay,
okay.
let's put it in a very simple way. If people are going to go to Google or ask ChatGPT saying that I am stressful, what should I do? Okay, it is going to throw a lot of things. Okay,
Mm,
but you
mm,
have to understand that you are built with that. Okay.
yeah. Yeah.
And there are two type of stress which is there. One is the eustress and another is a de-stress. Okay. I'm talking about pure conceptual activity. It's not only psychological. Read Organization Behavioral by Stephen King. Okay. So Stephen actually talks very detailed into eustress and de-stress. There are some stress which you need it. You need it. You have to have it. Okay. And a body cannot go without stress. Not possible at all. Okay, because we are built in a survival mode. Okay, so even if nothing is there, we have the capability to pull at something and then make it stressful. So instead of separating, I would probably say that start accepting stress as a part of your mechanism. Okay, your leadership will groom in an amazing way. Think of people who are under tremendous stress, their leadership, their decisions, their actions, their aura. Actually, one of the things about charisma is, charisma is not built on peace. Charisma is actually built on pressure. Okay. So that way, it will give a beautiful glow to your decision making system if you have too much of stress, but you know how to channel it and how to box it.
Now, I was reading to the book of Inner Engineering by Sadhguru, right? Where he says, in one of the pointers or one of the discussions, he said he was called for a discussion in the US. It's years back, and he said they told him to talk about stress management. Then he laughed and said, and he said, I didn't understand from when stress has to be managed also. Stress has to be relieved. So you don't need to manage, and people always think stress can be managed also. If you are tired, you need to sleep. If you are hungry, you need to eat. If you stress about you cannot eat, then there is no point, because hunger will not be solved if you don't eat. Sleep deprivation you
Absolutely.
cannot get over if you don't sleep. So everything cannot be related to stress, because your stress is to get relieved at some point. One
absolutely,
is either you finish the work or you delegate it, right?
absolutely,
Or you say this can be achieved at this percentage only, and you cannot do the rest because it is not feasible. That could be one of. And I recall my boss used to say, Prem, you have a problem. आज कितना solve कर सकता है? He'll ask you. So can you solve 10% today or do 0%? What is your call? I'll say, sir, if I can do solve 10%, I will have 90% for tomorrow. Are you saying tomorrow 90% can be solved? He'll say no. He'll say, tomorrow you may get an idea because you did 10%. You'll also think of saying, I
right,
can do it for the next 30%. So effectively, tomorrow you have solved 40%. If you don't do anything, you have 100%.
absolutely,
So he used to tell us that in all our project management reviews, where he used to say, every customer has a problem. That's why they come to you, right? You
right,
solve the
right,
problem, they'll give you a lot of problems because
right,
customers only come with problems that they need
yes.
solutions. So you need to look at very clearly what is that required. Now, what are the early indicators that stress has crossed to burnout?
Okay, again, stress and burnout is basically okay. You mean to say that, if it is early indicators, in the sense what you are trying to say is it has amplified.
Yeah,
Am I right?
yeah,
Okay. So it means that you will shy away from your activities, decision making, because our first response to anything which is not going our way is to go the other way. Okay.
hmm,
So
hmm,
I would probably say that, I can answer this in a multiple psychological way, but I'm trying to relate this with a leader's behavioral aspect. Okay. How can you understand from our own perspective and from the other perspective? You can actually see this behavior in your leader and you can understand that, okay, his stress level is increasing. Okay. So one is that, we will shy away from our own decision. Okay. Um, I have a very classic case. I can refer to my own case where when one of my company was not doing well. Okay, so we were almost on the verge of dilution kind of decision making. How I behaved. Okay, in my other company's board, I think I will answer that question. That will probably the best answer for it. The first thing first is I will always compare, saying that, will this also go that way? Okay. So, which means that is where I think the decisions are being delayed. Okay, we go back to the same point. Okay, and the second point being the inability to come to some kind of a clarity also. We will actually come back and say that, what if we probably have 50% of this, 30% of this, and 20% of this, playing safe. Okay. If somebody is actually playing safe, please be sure that they are hitting the roof. Okay. Because they are because I did that. Uh, Even for the most easiest of the decisions, we will try to have options. Okay. And the other thing, when you're talking about, how the stress increased to a level of this thing,
burnout.
you kind of become like a robot. Okay.
Hmm,
I take my own example. Yes, it happened to me. Okay, where uh, all my emotions will be fixed around, and I will start closing the emotions, and then I will start putting 1 + 1 = 2 all the time.
hmm,
Okay.
hmm,
So,
hmm.
which, if I have to use a word, correct word, probably, like emotional insensitivity.
Okay.
I think that's the word that comes to my mind.
Now I think I am getting what you are saying is because when I feel totally exhausted, I drift off not taking any decisions. That's the first point that I see, and I don't show interest in doing anything because I have decided that it will not work. And you made a very good example where you said, will that failure of one piece that I did this also will go in that direction. So the reference point is that failure.
Yes.
What we and we always go into one of my friends' dad, who's a lawyer by profession, used to always say, now people always refer to something that is failed, right? Why don't you think it in this way? I know these are the 10 ways that it will fail. Rest all will work.
Lovely.
So I know if I drive at 100 kilometers in this road, at kilometer 4, I have a pothole. So I have to cover that. So I know that there is. In
Right.
this place, I have a coffee shop where I can stop. That's a good pointer. Now you go further, you say there is a deviation, it's a blind spot. Drive carefully. So you know the pointers and you are clear. But people always refer only to the points that they failed, but what succeeded, what happened. And most of the cases, if you really see, we always refer to things that are not done, but 100 things that are done are not calculated or
Correct.
counted. So
Right.
that's, I think, one way of looking at this is what I felt. So I thought my pointers, I thought I will
Very
add. And
nicely said. Very
so
nicely said.
what, and we also spoke some of the interventions that we said, right? 10%, 20%. So micro interventions can sometimes bring the results in faster rather than having zero effort to do anything.
Yeah, I told about this vertex breathing.
Yeah,
Okay.
right,
Uh,
right.
it's a wonderful technique. I want everybody who's listening to this, Google it.
Okay,
It's there everywhere. It's simple. Use a Fibonacci series and the same inhale, hold, and exhale. Just do that. If you calculate it, it will come to around 1 minute and 52 seconds. Whatever stress level that you are, okay, we if you are able to take that properly, okay,
mm,
that level will automatically come down. The reason is because your heart shape is also vertex.
okay,
Okay.
okay.
And
Got it.
and and it's not like a myth, or it's not like a mysticism, or it's not like a blind belief. Okay.
Mm,
It is a pure mathematical model which it so happens it is resembling the shape of heart. Okay. And it works 100 times.
wonderful. Sir, what we are also saying is burnout isn't a weakness, it is an unmanaged system where we are not able to manage it, right? So like we can say that.
Yes. Burnout is a system. Let's not say that unmanaged. Okay. Because
Okay,
I'm a psychologist. You come from the project background, I come from the psychology. There is nothing called unmanaged. Like we in psychology we use a word called, keep the spirit of a human as it is. Okay.
okay,
So which means that if you are saying that it is unmanaged right now, you will probably say that I will be managing it 100% someday. Okay.
yeah, yeah,
It is not possible. It
okay,
is not possible. So which means that in psychology we say we don't treat the condition, we treat the patient. Okay. So burnout is there. When it comes, manage it. That's all.
that's it. Okay, wonderful. Sir, one last question for the day as we are on top of the hour. What mistakes do leaders make when teams are distributed and culturally diverse?
What mistakes leaders
Mistakes do
do?
leaders make when teams are distributed and culturally diverse? Because today we are in a global world. I have a team in UK, I have a team in US, I have a team in Switzerland. So culturally they are diverse, right? But they are distributed also, right? Different places. So how do you what are the mistakes that leaders make when these kind of systems are there?
Instead of even going to the leaders, I think I will put retrospectively, I'll talk about me itself,
Okay,
the same thing is there. Because the mistakes, what I have done, whatever that I'm telling, is not some reference concept point. I literally did that mistake. So, uh, example is, let's take current situation. Okay. I have an FMCG company. Okay. Where our entire products is EOE. We send it to, Europe and other regions. The current situation of war hit us badly. Okay. Um, what happens is that when we have a diverse team, what we don't bring them into culture is whenever we talk about culture, it's not about like what is their praying cycle, what is this, or what is their no, culture is also a habitual activity. Their character is also part of their culture. Their attributes is also part of their culture. Their personality is part of their culture. Okay, and I will go one step ahead. The minute you are talking about culture, their first level dependence is also part of their culture. Okay. Many a times leaders do not bring that part of that. If you need 100% effectiveness and productivity from a person, then his environment should also be conducive for that. You can give any number of table tennis, and then you can probably give any number of coffee, food, whatever it is. But inside you are there. Okay, you cannot get inside and give that there. And that's where we are talking about the culture, inclusive culture, the inner culture. Okay. What happened is that, we were going ahead with, I don't want to name the number, but our target was X. Okay. But whatever has happened with regards to the additional environment system, the X is not achievable as of March 31st, 2026. Okay. But we as leaders, we are answerable to bankers, we are answerable to our investors, we are answerable to a lot of stakeholders. So we will start trying to push our way to see how that X can be achieved. Okay. And this is the kind of a decision bottleneck that I will probably put saying that, if you're if you're a multicultural activity, if you have a multicultural team, bring the multicultural economics also part of that. Okay. Because I don't want to answer the normal thing like, understand them, because there are thousand books which says that. Okay. What is it that Satish can bring to this with my own personality? Is that politics or economical activity which is happening cannot be taken out of a person if you are thinking from a leadership perspective. Okay, if you are a leader, don't expect your person to just throw away everything and then come and then you put everything and then he will work like a robot. No. The second activity is not just their personal interference, but also their aspirational interference will also have a problem. If you have a multicultural system, Indian guy looking at an Indonesian designer, okay, wants to pursue that line of an activity. Okay, I can tell immediate things also. There are few systems which we train which are not legally allowed in few parts of Arab. Okay, it is a cultural problem, but it is also a political problem. So, if you can understand it not from an individualistic perspective, if you can understand it from a demographic perspective, regional demographic perspective, then your entire strategy will be different. So we also do the GTM activity for a lot of companies who wants to take their brand from one country to other. We look at the behavioral psychology of the demography, not the personality alone. We look at the behavioral psychology of the personality. And then this is one question where I can talk hours and hours and hours here because this is where I built my entire portfolio.
Wonderful, sir. Satish. Now, I just want to tell one pointer how the cultural differences happen here is I was working for I still consult to them. So I wrote a mail to a UK lady, and I wrote a mail saying she was not responding for 3 4 mails, and so I wrote, "Can you please have a look at this?" And this is already delayed, kind of. I just a plain sentence, and I sent the mail. And after an hour or something, my boss came in and said, "What did you write?" I said, "I wrote, please look into this issue and respond, and this is pending for some time." So, what I understood is in their culture, please means do it.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. in India is I come and ask, "Hey, Satish, please do this, man, and help me out getting this." So he'll say, "Okay, Prem, let's do it," and we'll go off. But please had offended her, and she was a lady. When you say uh, write a mail to a lady and she's offended, saying that I am being authoritative to that pointer to be executed immediately, she got offended, and I had to write saying that in India, please means it's a request. In your
Understood.
place, if please is an order, I am really sorry for what is the communication. I'll ensure that I don't use the please word in my emailing itself. So I stopped using please. I'll write, can you have a look at it and revert.
Sure,
So
sure.
I think that's the
That
cultural
that that
difference that we.
that reminds me. Possibly, I'll give you another example for Japan. Maybe it's a funny example. Everybody can learn out of it also. Japanese take every word seriously.
Okay.
Every word seriously. Okay. We were having some kind of a merger and acquisition kind of a deal. We wanted to establish a Japanese presence. So we tried, and then there was a list of pointers that we actually sent, and it was like 1 day gone, 1 week gone, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. Generally, what we do is we actually reply back saying that noted. I will have check and I'll get back to you. Okay.
Right.
They don't do that. Okay. What what? And after 2 3 weeks, I don't know, more than 3 weeks, like I was under an impression saying that they are not interested, and I moved on.
uh,
Okay. One email came, I think almost nearing a month. One email came, and the email was this big.
hmm.
Okay. You know what Japanese do? The minute you send it to them, they take it really seriously, and they have actually took it, made a project report, assigned a team, went on all the parameters, prepared an initial report. They took all their time preparing a response.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think your UK lady reminded me of this Japanese and we ended up establishing our Japanese space. We have a Japanese space also, but after that it was a real wonderful cultural learning from them, saying that you don't have to have multiple emails with the Japanese. One email is enough. They will take you very seriously.
I completely take that because I worked for Toyota Kirloskar as a project manager. I
You know,
understand how they track projects. I have one of the best documentation which I have seen in my entire career. I've kept that document as a reference. That's
reference.
how a document should look at. I
Lovely.
completely get. Satish, we are on top of the hour. I will summarize on the pointers that we have been discussing last 55 minutes now. Mental wellness is leadership infrastructure. It drives decision quality, culture stability, and growth consistency. Right? The decision fatigue is and burnout quietly destroy execution. So that we spoke about in as many words as leaders need repeatable, recoverable, and clarity rituals, which has to be followed when we do. Remote and high stress tech and cybersecurity environments demand resilience by design. Right, so you'll have to have that design in place so that you can cater to the business and keep the business going on. Otherwise, it is a no because tech and cyberspace once down can cost millions, right? So not a heroic end user is what we are talking about. Real wellness culture is built through boundaries, clarity, leadership behavior, not slogans, right? Sustainable growth comes from leaders who can stay calm, clear, credible, even under pressure. That's what you said. When you
Yes,
are, you have to have an architecture which is the same in a pressurized situation and a calm situation.
absolutely.
That's what
Absolutely.
you clearly said, Satish. These are the pointers that I had in mind, or had those pointers. Any final pointers that you have before we conclude the session, Satish?
Thank you, Prem. I want to conclude by giving some little extended holistic perspective of mental wellness.
Okay.
I want to take a small example which came up during the Psychology Day meeting of United Nations, which I attended last week. After more than 50 plus years, okay, the fear of death is now cropping with people all across the world. May it be COVID, maybe the instinctive point, after that multiple wars. So I am talking not only from the Indian perspective, I'm talking from a global perspective, from wherever that you are looking into it. Whenever we talk about mental wellness, please do not think of the visible rainbow. There is an invisible rainbow which is going to come. The second part, which is very important, which generally nobody covers, which I want to put on the end notice, if you are going to hire somebody, okay, please don't just do their background verification. Understand their family inheritance also. What means is that now, because of the world getting displaced, lot of migrant population are coming from one country to another country, and after 20 years or 15 years, they have settled down. Their generations are now coming to work for multinational organizations. Okay. And it is very important that you have to identify them and give them an extra comfort level because they still are in the other mode. Okay. These are something which generally a leader should keep in perspective. Always keep in perspective. It's not empathy alone. It's our responsibility also, and that is also the reason why it is brought under mental wellness is brought under Sustainability Development Goal of United Nations, and it is called as SDG 3. Every organization, every leader, irrespective of how many staff you have, please create a mental wellness policy. And if you really don't know what it is and how to do it, reach out to me. I am here to help you out, and we are doing it for all the companies. Okay. Because in 2030, there is a plan that it will become mandatory, whether it is 2030 or not. Because United Nations is very, very, very strict or very closely watching the mental wellness space because that's the only space which does not show it outside. And that's the only space which differs between a robot and a human being. So you someday AI can actually replace you, but the mental wellness aspect AI can never come inside. Even though we can have multiple apps, we are in Mesma, we are building robots for it. But even as a owner of that company, I'm saying we cannot do 100%, just like how a human being can. So mental wellness is not only about meditation. Mental wellness is not only about closing your eyes, going to Himalayas. Nothing. Mental wellness is it's there in every single breath of yours. Not only your breath. Make one day, at least one day, a better day for somebody else. If that is there, you are very much part of this particular topic. You have a good mental wellness policy, you have a good strategy, you have a good growth, and you are a very good citizen of this world. So thank you so much, friend, for this opportunity. I look forward talking to you again and again. And thank you so much for seeing this. And I close it with my landmark statement: always be happy and smiling. Thank you.
Thank you, Satish. Thank you for refraining mental wellness as a strategy, not a softness. There are leaders who win the next decade won't just be smarter or faster, they will be steadier, what we are saying. And the design decision system that protects focus, resilience, and because that what protects performance, right? So that's the closing statement that I have. If you are listening to this right now as a leader, start one move, protect your clarity, like protect your calendar. Your growth depends on it. So that's
Yeah,
the point
friend,
I want.
I just want to give you a very small to everybody. Dorji Datul, my very close friend, has joined from Bhutan. He's the governor of Bhutan, and Dorji also
Oh,
talks about mindfulness. He's also part of
okay.
Dorji. Thank you so much, and nice connecting with you, Dorji. Thank you.
Daji sir, thank you for joining us. It's great to have you on our show, sir. Thank you. With this, we would like to conclude our session and looking forward to coming with another session next Wednesday. Thank you and good day. Thank you,
Thank you.
Satish.
Thank you.